Hello and welcome to Series 3 of my podcast Innervation, where we get to hear stories and experiences of incredible women from diverse backgrounds and perspectives in science and technology. Our conversation gives us insights into some fascinating innovations, but we also get to relate. Here on Innervation, I give women a platform to be heard and seen because this exact conversation is also in video on YouTube. And honestly, every single episode that I record is inspiring and uplifting because we hear about what these women have learned along their own life's journeys, both personally and professionally. This week, I talked to Zainab Adigun, a structural engineer.
My name is Zainab Adigun. I'm a senior structural engineer at Pearl Frischmann. I've been in the industry for about 6 years now, and I love it. I've got 2 boys, they're twins. I also volunteer for an organization called AFBE, which stands for Association for Black and Ethnic Minority Engineers. And what we're trying to do is basically make engineering accessible to all. I lead the school program, which is called Making Engineering Hot. And essentially what we do is go into schools. So the age range is about 12 to 18-year-olds, and we do all sorts of activities and sort of mentoring, careers fairs, a day in the life of an engineer, basically a panelist of different types of engineers from different backgrounds, basically just making them aware of the different possibilities that are available to them.
Wow. Okay, so what is it like being an engineer and a mum at the same time?
It's intense. It's really, really intense. And I think, to be fair, I do have a lot of support around me, but I feel like at the moment I got pregnant, it was like, whoa, oh my gosh, because I'm not chartered yet. So, and that's a real big aspiration for me to become chartered. So when I did get pregnant, I was like, oh my gosh, my career is going to come to a standstill. It made me think, okay, like it means maybe I won't get to where I want to be, etc. Fast forward, however, I feel like since having kids and coming back into the world of work, bearing in mind I only took 6 months off, I feel like things have just sort of skyrocketed. Like it's the best my career has been in. I feel more confident. I feel like because I've got an extra sense of purpose. Having children, because you're no longer living for yourself, you're actually living for them as well. So it's almost like you've got to get up and go and get it, and you don't have a choice, if you get what I mean.
That's amazing to hear. And I feel like you probably had kids at a time where people are open to accepting the idea that women can have badass careers and be mothers. So your timing was great.
I agree. I think I was quite lucky. I think people before me may not have been so confident, but at the same time, you make all things of what you will. It's either you pick up yourself and you dust yourself up and you have that motivation and drive in your mind, or you sort of let the world or the industry shape how you approach your career after. So you're right. I think times have changed. I'm a bit lucky in that sense, but at the same time, that drive only does come from within, and also I think working with an organization that is quite flexible and quite understanding, of course, does help.
Yeah. So take me through the journey, because you ended up being a structural engineer, right? That's your title.
Yes.
How did you get to be a structural engineer? Like, what was the trajectory?
Sure. To be honest, at the start of my career, so we can actually fast forward all the way back. So being a young female or young student, I was always quite intrigued by buildings and thinking, oh, wow, how are they even getting this building to stand up right now? But I didn't actually know what it entailed or what it meant to have a building stand up like that. So as time went by, I did a course in year 9, so from year 9 to year 11 in engineering, because they had an option. They came to school and said, oh, you can go into hairdressing, I think mechanical something, and engineering. And I thought, oh, actually I get to be out of school for 1 day a week. That's really cool. And also I won't be doing hairdressing, because at that time I was a bit of a tomboy as well. Mechanics, so yeah, no, not really, don't really want to get that dirty. So engineering, oh yeah, that makes sense. That sounds really fun. So done that, and I really like that. Did a lot of electronics, played with different sorts of machines, really enjoyed that. At the same time, being really good with maths and engineering, I'm sorry, maths and physics and sort of the sciences. I think I spoke to someone that sort of explained, though, actually, if you want to do engineering, you have to be good at those subjects. So I did that at A levels, so that was fine. And then also speaking to someone along the way, they sort of explain, actually, civil engineering, if you like buildings and that kind of stuff, civil engineering is the way to go. But lo and behold, the civil engineering isn't really just about buildings, is it? It's about, you've got the geotechnics, you've got the water, you've got the different types of subjects that you cover. So it was actually at the very end of my degree, whilst I was on my placement year, going back to finish my MEng, where I was approached by someone from Brunel, because that's the university I went to, and they said, "Oh, would you like to do a master's? So rather than carry on doing your MEng, would you like to do a master's in structural engineering?" And I was like, wow, that sounds really difficult, but I know what structural engineering is. It's about buildings. I think that sounds really good, and on top of that, you get a scholarship. So that was when I really decided, actually, what I really, really want to do is become a structural engineer. So it took such a long time to really understand what I wanted to do and what I needed to do to get there. But along the way, I sort of pushed in the right path, and here I am today.
Yay to Brunel.
Yeah.
So along that way, did you ever think, I don't fit the stereotype, maybe I shouldn't be here?
Absolutely. You sit in a classroom full of it's just male in everything. So even for maths, when I was doing maths at A levels, I was probably the only female, and on top of that, I was the only Black female. But to be really honest with you, I don't know where I get this sense of courage, or I don't know. It didn't bother me. I actually, it excited me, the fact that I was the only female or the only Black person in the room. I thought like it was maybe a time to maybe try and make a change, and it doesn't matter. I mean, as long as you have the facilities, the resources, and you're not being, you don't have prejudice against you, why not? Why should that stop me? And when I said to my dad, "Oh, Dad, I think I want to be a structural engineer," he was like, "Oh yeah, go for it. Why not?" However, my mom's response was like, "Oh God, are you sure that's really it's a male's field?" And I didn't let that bother me. I didn't really care. I think it was it was what it was, and I guess that's where the drive comes from today, where I like to volunteer for like things like AFBE and Making Engineering Hot, because being a young child at that time, I could have easily been discouraged by the fact that I didn't look around and see people that looked like me, but I refused to let that get to me. I didn't think it was important. I think I was quite knowledgeable. I was getting the grades. I got to uni, all by myself. So why is that the stigma? Why is the fact that I stand out such a bad thing? I think it should be used to my advantage, actually.
Wow, I mean, that is almost like we can stop there. Like it's like, I just hope that people hearing that can hang on to that, because that's like make or break. An attitude like that can send you either left or right. Was there anyone inspiring you, or were you just like trailblazing?
That's a really good question. I love that question. I feel like I was trailblazing a lot. I feel like the fact that they almost told me I couldn't do it made me want to do it even more. I guess it comes a bit about maybe because I'm a bit rebellious. My star sign's a Leo, so we're lions. So we like to. That courage comes from within, and you like to sort of do what you're not supposed to do. And sometimes maybe it got me a bit into trouble. However, at the same time, I did have my granddad was actually an architect. So having that in mind, and he lives in Nigeria. He was born and brought up in Nigeria. So having that in mind did kind of give me a bit of inspiration, to be really honest. And when I did finally say, "Oh, I'm doing the degree in civil engineering," he was so proud of me. Bearing in mind this my granddad, because obviously we live in separate countries, I don't speak to him very regularly, but to be one of his grandchildren that actually is sort of following in his footsteps a little bit. He was, really over the moon. He bought me a book to do with construction, and that that book is still with me, and it really, really does. It makes a difference because it almost sort of kept me going. Apart from that, to be honest, the inspiration I saw was towards the end of uni. So there was this lady I met, Yewande Akinola. I think she came to one of the events that I went to, and she was Black. And that just, I just looked at her in awe, thinking, wow, you're so cool. She's young, she's in such a good position. She's come to speak at events. It's like, whoa, I think, why can't I get there too? And to be fair, along the way, I kind of didn't focus on that anymore. I just focused on my degree and getting a job. So it's only recently, as I said, where my career has actually sort of taken a skyrocket, because I'm now being able to have opportunities just like this, being able to be invited to just speak on a podcast, something I would never do before. So yeah, there wasn't a lot of inspiration. It was more just trying to trailblaze, because I knew what I wanted. I didn't really know how I was going to get there, but I knew what my end goal was what I wanted my end goal to be.
I think I'm getting your vibe, which is you want to make change happen. You're a change maker. And that does take a lot of courage. When's your birthday, by the way? I'm a Leo too.
Really? It's on 7th of August.
Okay.
When's yours?
I'm July 30th.
Oh, nice.
Leos are the best. Yowanda's been on this podcast.
Wow. See, even that's just crazy for me, honestly, doctor, because I was like, how old was I? I think 19, looking up at her, thinking, wow, I want to be like you. And just hearing the fact that she's been on this podcast, I've met her twice now. And every time I'm like, oh my God, you're my hero. And it must be a bit awkward for her because she doesn't understand the impact she made. But it's just crazy. It really is. Seeing someone that looks like you doing what you would love to do is so impactful. Honestly, doctor, it's so impactful.
Yeah. And you know what? I'm thinking of Yewanda, and I'm listening to you, and I'm just thinking, what incredible women. Because, when I was graduating from engineering, there just were no women like you. And, if I had role models like you and Yewande, I would have thought that anything was possible. And I'm so relieved actually that women like you exist, because, when you started out by saying, I've got twin boys, and it's like, oh my God, women really can have it all today, because it was just so different. Like a couple of decades ago, where it was unheard of that women would be doing male jobs. But not only are you doing male jobs, but you're doing it in a feminine way by juggling motherhood. And, it's so badass. I mean, I think you are part of the definition of the way the future is for women who want to have careers, have purpose that's beyond having children.
Exactly.
And so with that in mind, I guess what I really want to know from you is, clearly it's doable because you're doing it, but is it hard? Is it like a daily struggle and you're just like, no, this is fine, I'm juggling? Or is it like, no, it's literally doable? And if so, what are the main things that make it doable for you?
I love the question. I think, to be fair, I think the first thing I want to say is the fact that I had kids in the middle of my career. Just I wasn't even a senior an engineer yet. So the fact that happened, I honestly had a meltdown. I was so scared, nervous, everything, and it really just made me feel like, yeah, this is it. My life is over, honestly. And it's crazy. But however, at the same time, I look back now and think, would I do it again? And absolutely, I would do it again right now, to have kids right now. And to be fair, also, I have been blessed with the pandemic. The pandemic has been a blessing and a curse in many ways. But the pandemic really did help me, because that was when working from home started. So the fact that I could finish my mat leave at six months, even though I didn't want to. That was actually due to finances, and being also because of fear. I didn't want to take too much time off, because I didn't want them to think, oh yeah, maybe she doesn't care that much, and then I'm losing out on opportunities every single day. Also, I didn't want to be on mat leave for too long, because I thought, you don't even know where the world is working now. Would I even have a job when I come back? That happened. However, at the same time, I didn't have that mum guilt, because I felt, because I was able to be at home and look after my kids at the same time, but also work. So I'm quite blessed. And also because I live in a house where I have a support system that's really, really strong and there all the time. I have that luxury. So to be fair, my situation it's not so cut clear. It's not something that is quite normal. It's because I live in a house where I have a lot of people around me. If I didn't, I think, to be fair, I think I would still strive, because, as I said, that determination comes from within. I would put things in place to make sure I'm still able to focus on my career as well as be a mum. Because at the end of the day, I was Zainab before I had children, and I want to be Zainab after, but still have that input as a mother, if you understand what I mean. So having that support system really does help. Having people around me really does help. And also the fact that, agile working is now a thing. You don't have to be in the office 5 days a week. That really does help. That flexibility is really, really important. So I guess with anyone trying to do the same thing, you really do have to go for an organization that is understanding that you are, yes, you're an engineer, you're an employee, but actually you do have a life outside of your work. So they need to be accommodating of that at the same time, if you get what I mean. So there's a number of things that really have to be in place for you to be able to do it. And even with that being said, doctor, it is still really, really hard, because sometimes, for instance, today I woke up, was trying to get ready for work and stuff, and then both of them have woken up at the same time. So I'm going to have to look after them for at least a little bit before I then pass them on to my partner. And, I'm trying to get my mind right, trying to get ready, but you don't have that luxury, because you're actually on call 24/7.
And it does seem that, from the conversations I've had with women with kids, it does seem like supportive partners are crucial. What do you think about that?
Absolutely. If you don't have a supportive partner, things will be quite difficult. However, at the same time, life does happen, and we need to respect that. At the end of the day, if you have at least a supportive network of people, you'll be fine. It's okay. If you can rely on at least one person, you'll be fine.
Yeah, no, because one of the things that comes up is, obviously this podcast is for women in STEM. But I often think, like, I don't want women to necessarily hear this. I actually want men to hear it, because I feel like men need to develop more of an understanding of what it's like for us women in STEM. But it sounds like you've got a really solid support system, and that sounds crucial. So you're juggling a lot, like that's the reality.
Yeah.
What are the sort of mantras, or like the things you tell yourself on a daily basis in order to keep that juggling happening?
That's a really interesting question. I was going to work. I think it was yesterday, and I was in the lift. I was looking back at myself through the mirror in the lift, and I said to myself, Zainab, where do you want to be in the next 5 years? Are you going to be happy in the next 5 years? And those are the kind of weird conversations I have with myself, because it reminds me to think of what you do now will really have an impact on where you are in the next 5 years. And in the next 5 years, you cannot be in the same place, because then what would it have been all worth it if you're basically stagnant and in the same position? You have to really think about, what is your next move? What are you doing next? What can you do a bit better? What things do you really need to focus on right now that will really make an impact in the next 5 years? And those are the kind of conversations that I have with myself, that almost pushes me back into the race. just in case I fall off, because I will fall off. I will. Maybe sometimes I get a bit overwhelmed with work, or maybe sometimes I get a bit overwhelmed with family, or maybe sometimes I get overwhelmed with just my personal situation, you know. But you can't allow that to affect you. And I was speaking to my mum the other day, and she said, Zainab, you've got kids, and yes, you have a partner, but your work is really, really important, because that is your bread and that's your butter. Without your work, you cannot survive, you know. And that really is it. Work is very, very, very important, and it's not just work to me anymore. It's my career, it's my passion, it's something I genuinely love doing. So I guess, you know, I always try and keep the beat and just keep going, and just making sure that I'm keeping myself fresh. You know, I'm doing a bit of this, but actually, Zainab, maybe you should be doing a bit of this. So I'm doing a lot of STEM activities, but someone in my organization said to me, Zainab, you're doing a lot, but you're not getting chartered yet. You need to get chartered. And this was someone quite high up, and it was such a wake up call, doctor, because I'm doing so many things. But what's happening to my professional qualification? That was one thing I was supposed to do from the very beginning. You know. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you sound unique in your attitude, which is that you don't ever let yourself stand still. I don't think that's a common attitude, because you know, I've had conversations with women where they go, well, once I had kids, my attitude changed and it became all about them. And I just didn't care about work anymore. Like, it just, you know, and I think different women have different attitudes, and yours is really like, you just keep going. And that's really, really inspiring, because that's how we progress, you know. Are you aware that your attitude is very innovative?
Well, that's quite an interesting way to put it. I've never thought of it like that. But I guess I see what you mean. Because you're no longer confined to what society thinks, and you're no longer thinking, oh yeah, this is what I need to be. But all this time I just thought my attitude is just because, first of all, I don't want to be poor. Second of all, I feel like I need to make a difference in my children's life. So I want to be financially free. That's really, really important for me. My parents have come from Nigeria, and they've done an amazing job raising my siblings and I in this country, and they've given us opportunities that they didn't necessarily have. So that also has an impact, because you're thinking, all right, so they've done this for you, so what are you going to be doing for your own children? Are you just going to be following what the status quo says and just, you know, just live just a nice, comfortable life? That's fine. You know, that's okay for some people. But for me, I feel like I've got a bit more to do. And at the same time, I want to drag everyone else up behind me. So when I say that, I mean the young people behind me that don't have the opportunities that maybe I was exposed to. For instance, having a scholarship for my master's. Not a lot of people can do that. Whilst I was at school, I also had this opportunity to have a Saturday class where they paid me to come so I could do maths and physics. Not a lot of people have the opportunity to do that. And because of that, their lives don't actually go in a path that maybe they would have wanted. So those three things really are the main drivers for me, I think. And you saying that it's innovative is really, really interesting, very refreshing, actually, Doctor. And it really just makes me just wonder now, and it makes me smile. It really, really just makes me smile.
Because it sounds like the more you add onto your plate, the more driven you become. I mean, what were you like before you had children, and the purpose to give your kids a better life? Like, were you as driven?
This is really interesting. One of the people that I work with said to me, Zainab, it's like since you've had kids, it's like you know, you've just shot up, and just that's not even just thinking about like where I am in my career, just my attitude to everything. But I wouldn't say I was a bum before. I mean, I did get here. I went out and got a placement. I've done a master's. So yeah, I think maybe I was just like yeah, just gonna go with it. Let's see what happens. And oh yeah, got a job. Well, that's great. Doing well, that's great. Maybe my focus was more on like having fun and like going on holidays and that kind of stuff. I think maybe that was why maybe I came across a little bit maybe just slightly nonchalant about my career and where I wanted to be. But obviously having kids, it's like, whoa, all right, tunnel vision. What are you doing? You got to be sensible. You're not an 18-year-old teenager. You're not 21. Also, I guess it comes with age, doctor. I'm going to be 30 soon. And that's quite a big milestone for me. So I'm looking back at myself thinking, all right, all the things that I wanted to achieve when I was growing up at the age of 30, have I been able to achieve it? What can I do right now to when it comes to the age where I've turned 30, I feel like, okay, yeah, that's not bad, Zay. That's not bad. You can keep going, but that's not bad.
Wow, you're so inspiring. So yesterday I was at a panel. I was part of a panel, and the people in the audience were underrepresented, all like graduates, super intelligent, really, they were handpicked. We were at Oxford and they're doing like a 6-week graduate program to see whether they might do a PhD. So the room was full of really incredible people. But what really shocked me was, even though we're in that very kind of elite situation, a lot of people talked about their lack of confidence. And I was reflecting on the train home, like, it's difficult coming from an ethnic minority, from a background that, is underrepresented, where you don't see many people like us succeed, all of those things. So you can be brilliant, but you can also have this thing that you carry around with you, which is like, I'm not enough. Have you ever felt that? And how do you deal with that, if you have?
Wow. Gosh, that's quite a difficult question. I think, to be honest, from the beginning, the fact that I was female and the fact that I was Black, I always knew that things would be a little bit harder for me, because that I'm not just Black, I'm also a woman in a male-dominated field. Okay, that's fine. I accept the challenge. That's absolutely okay. I can't really say I've had that experience where, yeah, I've definitely felt like I've been discriminated against. Um, like, and it was so clear. I honestly can't say that. There has been some sort of subtleness, of course. However, why would I let that distract me? Why would I let that get to me? Because isn't that the plan then? Isn't that the idea? Because I'm Black and because I'm female, I'm supposed to be at a certain level. No. Why would I let that distract me? That's basically allowing them to win. And that's just that would be crazy. That would defeat the whole purpose of this thing. And at the same time, having organizations such as AFBE, you are surrounded by amazing people from ethnic minorities, and even just being a part of that organization has been the main reason, to be honest with you, doctor, why I've been able to be so confident and being able to be in amazing situations. The opportunities that have come to me because of AFBE is immense, so I guess that's the key thing. You will feel a bit like, oh, actually, oh God, yeah, I'm the only Black person in the room, but you can't let that discourage you. You cannot. And if you do feel discouraged by that, surround yourself with like-minded people that look like you, because the fact of the matter is, our representation it is underrepresented. We're not represented very well, and that's why we have such things like EDI and the tick box exercises that people like to go through. and that, you take that with a bit of salt, because do they really want to do it? Is it really something they really care about, or is it because they want to look good? But that's a story for another day. You really just have to surround yourself by people that look like you. Don't let that bog you down because you're the only Black person in your field. I think the idea is to make that, actually let that drive you. So when you are, in the place you want to be, and you get to the position you want to be, remember how you felt at the very beginning, and go back and bring up the other people that have been left behind, because that is your, it's almost like that is now your purpose. Maybe it's not something you're so interested in it, but it is your purpose, because the fact of the matter is that you're needed to go back and get the rest of the people, so that they can join you. So you're no longer the only Black person in your organization. I'm the only Black female in my organization, and it's crazy. And well, I saw another Black lady actually yesterday for the first time, but she's in an admin role, and it's fine. But I want to see people that look like me, that sound like me, that think like me in my organization.
Yeah.
I don't know if I answered the question properly, but
no, you totally did. And you're bringing back all the memories of AFBE UK this year. That event was so awesome, and the love in the room and the celebration of people's achievements, and everyone was so united, and everyone had so much fun, like dancing. And oh my God, I just, the panel discussions during the day were incredible. I mean, everything, I just came out of that event buzzing, just knowing that AFB really provides a kind of hub of support and encouragement and hope and joy and positivity. I mean, it's just such an incredible organization, and it's because of people like you in it. And I just think what you're doing is so incredible. But you as an individual, you are utterly inspiring. Just hearing the little details of your story. I mean, I feel like, we could chat for hours about what you've been through, what your vision is for your future. But, just knowing that you exist, I think will touch so many women who look like you, but also women who, because I think, that we need to shout out to sort of women who are Caucasian and kind of also lack a bit of self-belief, because your attitude is just let's do this. So thank you so much for sharing your story with us and for being so inspiring.
Thank you very much.
So if anyone wants to find out more about AFBE, where do they go?
So we are on LinkedIn, so Association of Black and Ethnic Minority Engineers, so AFBE UK, just type that in. We're on Twitter, we're on Instagram, we've got our own website, we're everywhere. Just type in AFBE UK and you'll find us.
Thanks for listening, and please do subscribe to this podcast and maybe even rate and review it if you can. The more ratings and reviews, then the more interest from those trusty algorithms, which could help to increase the reach of this show. And you can watch the video recording of this conversation on YouTube on my new series called Esteemed. It's all about self-discovery, self-evolution, and inclusivity on innovation. Let's all strive to be in the best versions of ourselves and celebrate others being themselves too. As always, be kind and loving, and I wish you all a great week.